Hello everyone, it is Christine here and I am back with you to do some work on a Stitchery Swap square that I'll be sending to Jen in the UK. So this square is being sent as part of the Great Big Little Stitchery Swap hosted by the lovely Annie Claxton over at Arty Farty Annie. Annie has a YouTube channel, also a Facebook group, an amazing Discord community, so check her out if you haven't come across her already. And Jen herself does incredible creations, textural, vibrant colours, all sorts of lovely things. I've seen other folks that have swapped with her or received her goodies sharing them, and they are absolutely incredible. And I'm actually so excited because I've got an envelope waiting for me downstairs with the Stitchery Swap square that Jen has sent me, but I'm not going to open it yet. And also when you're seeing this video, it will be when Jen has received it. So you won't be seeing this video for a few weeks because it's going to take a bit of time to get to the UK. So I'll do a separate video opening up hers, but I wanted to finish her square and get it in the mail before I open up her square that she has sent me. I just think that feels right to me. So I'll talk you through what I have done, and then we're going to do some stitching together, and I'll show you some of the techniques I'm using as well as adding some additional techniques into the piece. So I selected some of this absolutely gorgeous, it's a Robert Kaufman fabric, and it's called Treasures of Alexandria, so Alexandria in Egypt. And I think I got this off the sewing layer, so second hand from the sewing layer, but it's just absolutely divine fabric. I adore it. It's got the deep blues and then the golds and the greens and the pinks and the purples. It is delicious. Then I had, and it's falling off down my desk, again I got this from the sewing layer, I'm pretty sure, and it's just a lovely, it really feels very Japanese, and I think it was actually because yes, it was the lovely Leanne from Leanne's Crafty Cupboard translated that, and I think it means butterflies, does it? So yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So I used some of that, and I'll show you in a moment a little extra special feature I did with that. I was going to add some of this slinky sort of fabric in, and I was going to do it in a stripe, but sometimes it's good to get your little piece, and then when you look at it you're just like, no, I don't think the piece actually needs it, so I didn't end up adding that in. I can always put a little bit on the back or something as a little extra design element, so I might keep that out to do that. Even though the back might end up being sewn down, I think it's sometimes fun just to put something else on. And so I basically cut around, because from this fabric you will see that it's all sort of, it's got an extra then circles behind it, but I just wanted to take the element, and so I just used one of the pieces from the side, which was a partial piece, because that's all I needed. I still wanted to have some room at this side to put in this other fabric. So I put a piece of this fabric down first, and I also used, even though you can barely see it, I know it's there, and Jen, when she watches this video, will know it's there. I also used a little bit of this Japanese fabric that I just got some little squares of from the sewing layer in a whole bundle of mixed squares. So I used a little bit of that fabric down here, and it even extends down to the bottom. And then I've done beading, and I've used a beaded piece that I got from the lovely Silk and Stitch, who recently sent me the most lovely gift, but this was from an earlier purchase that I made from them, and it is this incredible beaded fabric. And I've got so much of it, so I do need to keep sharing it. I've shared some with my fellow stitchy buddies, but I will need to keep sharing that, because I just take little pieces, little formations, and from this one piece that I took, I've still got this section here. I've got this little one here. I've got another little frondy bit over here, so you can get a lot out of one little section of that fabric. And that's what I've used to create this piece here. So that's just been stitched down, and I've done extra stitching through each of the bead segments to make sure that they don't come off, so they're really securely attached. These ones I did my own beading, and I'm actually tempted to maybe add a third one in. I kind of like threes together sometimes, so I'm thinking we can add a third one together. I also did some little beads at the end of the fronds here. for a bit of fun. I've stitched all around to hold the outside of the piece down. And I've also done a running, back stitch along here, and I've started whipping it, but I'll show you how I do that. And that's also the same technique that I'm using to outline the flower, because I find when you do a whipped back stitch, you get a beautiful outline, a beautiful, raised outline, but quite an even line. So I'll show you how to do that both here, and we'll do that together on the flower. And I'm thinking I'm going to add this extra little bit of beading in, coming down and coming over, sort of like that. I think that would be nice. So we can stitch that down together. And then let me show you my fun little element. So those of you who've been watching my various Stitchery Swap squares know I like to put in little pockets or little hidden places. And at the moment I seem to be doing little flips, because you might have, hopefully by the time this goes to air, Juicy will have got her square in Italy, Juicy, and that's got a little flippy thing in it. So yeah, I've just used the same fabric, cut out a circle of it, put it onto a backing, and then used some of this Japanese style fabric and cut out one of the little flowers and used that, because I wanted to introduce, because my French laundry labels got red on them, I wanted to have something that sort of combined red and pink, and so this was the perfect way to do that. And it's just a lovely little flip, and I love how it's super colourful inside. And then these are vintage French laundry labels. So I've got an L and O initials, generally they're initials of people. I've got a VE to spell out love, and then I've got my initials CO. And so then I've just sewn a little button here to act as a nice little thing to hold that that little circle down. And I love it because it's kind of like a bubble floating off the surface of the piece. It's dimensional, but then it has that hidden little bit between. And I'm also really happy with the stitching around here, because that also brings that up, and this stitching brings this up, and the beads also create dimension. So let's let's start by doing the little beading piece down here. So we'll need, I finally got out a nice thin needle to use for beading. Not that these beads are too tricky. Get some purple thread, I think. Actually, I'll use this one that I was using. It's nice. It's a Gutermann, nice and strong. I was actually just watching a beading video from Sarah Humphrey. She was showing all the different beading techniques. Might even try one of the ones she was showing. I normally just do them on a line and then put some stitches in to hold them, but I might try her technique. Only problem with these beading needles is sometimes they don't want to take the thread through them. So I hope you're all having a lovely day. I have to remember that you'll be watching this, even though it's a week and a half before Christmas here, probably when you're watching it, it's going to be into the new year. I don't know how long postage is going to take over this sort of period to get to the UK. It's always hard when you kind of, do this, and then that anticipation of waiting for the person to receive. So in the technique that Sarah Humphrey was doing, she gets 2 beads on the needle. Doesn't really matter that they're different sizes, I don't think. And then she stitches down and then pops up just behind the previous. And she actually uses a double thickness of thread. I think this will be strong enough anyway. So you're putting and so then you go through the bead that's already stitched down, and then you add another bead on. Another So another 2 beads. I can't remember, maybe I'm doing my own technique now. So I'm adding another 2 beads on, lining it up where I want my little frond to go, going down. And then, yeah, popping up between the 2 of them. And with her, she was popping up in between the 2 bits of thread because she had a double thread. And then I go through the end one. And then I put my next 2 beads on. I'll have to double watch and see if that's exactly what she was doing, but this is what I'm going to do. It's a problem when you're sort of half stitching, half watching. Sometimes you you don't get the whole concept. But I'll pop up then and pop through the last bead. I guess you're just getting those extra stitches where you're popping up and going back through. It just gives a bit of extra assurance that if something comes undone, there's still enough stitches sort of holding it in place. It's not as easy. I'll actually show you for the rest. I've shown you that one. What I do with these other ones is I actually just get a row and then put some couching stitches over it. So I'll show you that because it's going to be a bit quicker to do that. These are just a random selection of these beautiful sort of opalescent. I know, Martha, you love your opalescent beads. I was watching your video. Good to see you back. Hope you're feeling well on the improve now. We definitely missed you. And cheerio to our little Stitch Along community. The lovely Linda posted in our little Facebook group today saying that she's missing us all, and I'm definitely missing them. Like, it gets to 10 o'clock of, I shouldn't say them, like I'm missing you folks out there. Yeah, it gets to 10 o'clock when we used to be doing our Stitch Along of an evening, and yeah, I'm not doing my, because we finished our A to Z of embroidery, but I do have exciting plans for the new year. Now I think I'll do these ones curving around a bit, so I think I'll put a little stitch down here. So that's where I just did a row of the beads all together. And then what I do is go back and put some couching stitches. So what I mean by couching stitch is a stitch that goes over, so to hold it in place. I'm going to put my first one up here where I want that sort of curve in the spine to be. And I'm going to then put a stitch in that goes over the top of the beads, and it's going to come down between 2 of the beads and just hold them in place. And you can put as many of those couching stitches in place as you need to hold your beads where you want them. So just put another couching stitch in there. And I'll put another couching stitch over here. And then I'll go up to the top up here. And something Sarah did show is that you can use, and she said a tapestry needle's as good as any really. What you can do is use, actually I'll show you again because that one's already pulled through. I'll show you over here. So when I'm going to come down and put my thread couching over, you can use a tapestry needle and just use that to help guide. If I wanted it to, my thread to fall between these beads over here, I can use it to guide where the thread goes. So that was a good little tip. I haven't done that before. I think it's called a laying tool, but she said you could just use a tapestry needle, and she's right, that works perfectly well. We'll put a little, some sort of bead at the end of this. I'll just get this stitch down first. Going to run that one back through. Take it around maybe and down. So I'm just going to run another piece of thread down through the collection of beads. Again, that just gives it some extra These beads aren't going to have heavy wearing though, I don't think. I mean, it depends. I suppose if they were put on a quilt or something, they might get a bit of extra wear. And then I'll just put some stitches on the back and travel back up to the top. So something I like to do when I'm travelling thread on the back of a piece is just put little stitches in, particularly if you've got a nice thick fabric like this vintage bedspread fabric that I'm using as the base. And then I will pop up over here and we'll select a little bead. Maybe I'll use this nice little hexagon. It's like a little faceted, I don't know how well you can see that little faceted bead. I'll put that one in down here. So yeah, this one reminds me of a sort of a moonlit garden. I did that piece a while ago. I'll try and remember to link to it if I can in the description. But this is just another version of it. This almost reminds me of a moon with, yeah, sort of plants in the foreground and reflecting, and that's almost like a little moon as well. And it was funny, last night I'd been stitching it before bed and I'd turned off my little lamps here, and so the room was a bit darker, and it just, yeah, it took on a really lovely look. So that's what it is. It's a mystical moonlit garden for Jen. So I hope you like it, Jen, because I'm a big admirer of your work. And I love how we all have our different styles. We all try different things. It's really great. So there we go. That is a nice little, let's just give you an up close look. Really happy with that. I think, yeah, it definitely works having the three of them there. So pleased that I chose to do that. Just tie my thread off. And then we can probably use this piece of thread to stitch down our other beaded piece that we're going to take from our Silk and Stitch beading. Okay, so let's head over here. And so this Silk and Stitch is just on like a light tulle, and I usually just trim around. I actually leave a little bit around because I just think it gives a nice look. But I'll just trim that a smidgeroo. And I guess we'll just start stitching it from this end. I'm just going to come up from the back, put a little stitch at the end, and then I'll pop up at the end of one of the stretches of beads, and I will take my needle through the beads. If I can get all the way round, I will. Can almost get all the way round. Sometimes it won't want to come through, like now it's wanting to get a little bit stuck. Give it a wiggle. See where it's getting stuck? Might have just got caught on a thread or something, so oops, ouch. These beady ones are very sharp. So what I'll do, it only wanted to go through that far, so I'll put a stitch into the back at that point, and then I'll pop back up and try and go through again from the next little bit of beading down. So we'll try there, go down to there. Yep, now it's fine. Probably just hit a little, because it would already have the beading thread in there that's holding the beads in the first place, but this is just me doing my little insurance policy to be sure that they're not going to fall off. Particularly when you're cutting them off a larger embellishment, you might cut the thread that's, or the little knot that's securing them. So this is just a good practice if you're using dismembered bits of beading. We want it to sort of twist it down a bit like that one, yep. And then I'll come back to this end, I think, and travel up this way. Pulling my thread nice and tight, just getting these sitting right, like that. Put a stitch in down here, because I want it to sort of be pulled down a little bit, yep, good-o. And then I'm just going to put a few stitches at this end over it, just to hold the sort of the little bit of tulle that's there down, and just get it sitting nicely. So I went and visited my parents this morning. Although Dad had said, "Oh, are you coming down on Saturday?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll come down in the morning before the roads get too crazy, and I'll bring Travis down." But anyway, Dad had gone out. I think he had to go do a few errands, so he probably thought I was going to be a bit later. So Travis didn't get to have a play with Lucy Dog, but I got to see my mum, my nana, or Travis's nana, sorry. And yeah, Mum had just come back from where she's been staying down on the foreshore here, and she and my uncle go down before Christmas and have a nice little sort of camping, but really probably we'd call it glamping because they've got all the mod cons, freezer and fridge and full sort of camping kitchen setup, proper camp beds. So, and they go out fishing, and they've had a wonderful fishing time apparently, and ended up with lots of beautiful flathead, which is a wonderful sweet fresh fish, and the way they get it, and they bring it back, clean it straight away and straight into the freezer, so it's frozen from, it's the freshest fish I have ever tasted. It will be delicious. So Mum had some frozen portions of that, and it's all skinned and boned, and so none of that to have to worry about. So I feel very lucky to have some of those portions to enjoy. Great summer food to have, just fish, and then I chuck some potatoes in the air fryer and make a salad, and that's a very good summer dinner. So that's twisting up a bit that way, but I don't mind that actually. I think that's all right. I think I must have couched them down while I was talking and not really thinking I was going to originally have it twisting down like that. But no, I'm happy with that. That way it doesn't obliterate the design as much. Okay, so that is done. I had saved some little threads that I had from this fabric and also from the other one. It's got some little goldy threads in, and I was wondering about making a little nest down here, but would that be too much, or would I make a little nest? Make a little nest down here? No, I don't know. I don't think a nest is going to be made. I think I like the simplicity, but then the detailing. So no nests. Put away the nest, Christine. You can keep that for another project. Okay, so what we'll actually, let's first of all show you the technique. I've already laid down my back stitches here and started to do the couching. I'm using this glorious razzle thread from Wonderfil and Sue Spargo. I know some people don't love working with it. It's a little bit tricky to work with, but it does give you a lovely glistening textured effect. And then I'll put these are great, they're a plastic, I've made a video where I actually repurposed an old plant seedling sort of razor cover to make these little wraps, but they're great because they stick against each other again, and they just keep all your threads beautiful. With these particular threads, they try and unravel from the end as well, so I actually just put two of my little quilt clips on the end of them, as you can see with my bundle here, but it just keeps them in order. So I think I'll use my big javelin sized needle for this, because it doesn't sort of protects the thread a bit as you're stitching with it, if you can actually thread it in the first place, which should not be so hard, Christine, because you've got a very big eye on your needle. And then we'll put a knot in the other end. Put my beads out of the way. So Mum's getting ready for Christmas too. She's going to make her beautiful ice cream Christmas pudding. I actually I haven't watched the video yet, but I think Marion was doing, from Marion's World, was doing some no churn ice cream. And when I watched the video, or if Marion, if you're watching this, I was thinking you might like Mum's recipe where she makes like a plum pudding mix but puts it in ice cream, shapes it like a plum pudding and freezes it. And so it's got lots of brandy and chunks of chocolate in it and sultanas, and Mum puts glacé ginger. I think she also puts apricots, maybe a bit of fig as well, and so it's just and it's perfect for our Australian Christmas. Australian, I said that in a very Australian way. Let me, though, just before I talk about Australian Christmas, I better tell you what I'm doing. So I'd laid down just back stitches, and then I'm actually going through, always from the same side, going through each of the back stitches, and it's wrapping a thread over the back stitch, and so you get that lovely outline effect. And in this case, because I'm using a variegated yarn, you also get a lovely variegated effect, or a differentiation of colour, almost like a vine or something. So I'm just going to go over this lower section where I'd already done some wrapping, because I've got the thread, and I may even go back up and do it all the way up as well with an extra, because I've got plenty of thread here, even though I've just unthreaded it. And it's good actually, because I've done a raw edge on this side, so it might just add a bit more dimension around that raw edge and cover it up. Not that a little bit of scrappiness worries me, it's my style, it's my vibe, scrappy. I think that's why I like slow stitch. It's not about perfection. So I'll just pop my needle in here and just come down and do the same on the bottom down here. Although I have done some wrapping there, but I'll just come down and do one more. So when I'm popping up next to one of the stitches, and then I'm passing my needle underneath and underneath again. And I'll just do one more at this end, and then we'll call that end done. And then I'll pop down. And then I might actually this time just travel it up the back and put a few little holding stitches in. When I've got a length of thread like that passing there, it's good just to put some, actually just wrapping it and doing a similar sort of motion, just to hold those stitches in place. And then I'll come back up here and we can do a final round. So I'm popping up next to the first of the stitches, and I want to wrap both pieces, both the wrapped one and the, it's a bit hard obviously to tell now where the stitches are, but oops, I've got a notch. What have I done there, Christine? How did you manage that? That's pretty impressive, really. Let's grab our tapestry needle and see if we can unknot. Oh, well, you get the good, the bad and the ugly with my stitching. That way you won't feel bad when it happens to you. You're like, okay, it happens to everyone. It does. I'm sure there's people that cut this out of their video, but I don't. Okay, we are unravelled. I guess it can happen when you're doing your little twisty stitches. So this is going to give a lovely braided, almost like a plaited, but a sort of a circular plait. It's a great way to add texture and add smoothness to your lines. And as you can see here, also if you used a different thread for wrapping, even if you don't have a variegated thread, you'd get that variegated effect. Oops, another little. But you don't have to go as many times as this. I just thought, seeing I had the thread and I would like this to be quite a raised border, so it suits my needs. I should be able to get this off in the post today, although it's only Saturday, so it won't be collected till Monday. Unless they're doing extra collections for Christmas, I'm not sure. Good thing with these Stitchery Swaps is as long as you keep them relatively flat, like I wouldn't want to go any more dimensional than this, and then just put them between some card or put them inside a card. You can send them as card only overseas, so $3. 3 Australian dollars, which is pretty good to be able to send a lovely gift of Stitchery. Makes me happy I can send things, and I've worked out how to send other bits. There's a few folks getting a few little surprise goodies in the mail as well. I want to keep doing that for my stitchy friends. I want to get through everyone. Some people have been winners of giveaways, but there's some that haven't yet won a giveaway, haven't yet had a little special surprise package. So keep my little list of people to surprise. I'm going to join in the declutter challenge from Just Get It Done quilts, starting on 1 Jan, I think. It's a pretty good chance if I find things to gift to others or to share where I've got a bounty of something. Definitely want to keep doing that. Sorry, I'm just tying it off, seeing my needle unthread itself, but I might actually just rethread to put a stitch or two in because this thread is a bit windy, so I do like to make sure it is securely ended off. And as you can see, it starts to get a bit tries to unwind itself as well, like at this point. But you can then actually use individual bits of it, or you can couch it down. So I'll definitely keep that piece. So that's what it looks like with the lovely going over it. So as you can see, it gives a really nice dimensional, almost looks like little beads or something down there because it's got that, beautiful colourful stitching. So now let's use that same technique. We're going to just start by doing some backstitch, which is the base, and I'll show you my slightly different version of backstitch. 3 different types of backstitch you can do, which discovered in our stitch along earlier this year. Again, I'll try and remember to link to that video if I can. Now, where have I got my normal needle? There's my normal one. It's got some blue in it. My pink in. This is just another vintage one that I had. It's a Metla quilting cotton, but it's a nice fuchsia pink. I probably would have used something even slightly darker maybe, because sometimes I was almost thinking the crevices of the leaves, but I guess this gives a more dimensional look. Okay, so I've put a knot in the end, and we're just going to pop up where I'm starting from here, and we're just going to do some not super close, as in not super short. And so with my version of backstitch, I come forward 1 stitch, and then I go further forward and bring my stitch back to the previous. And then from that one, I go forward because I won't risk undoing it because we've gone backwards on the last. I'm going to go forward a stitch, and then I'm going to jump forward even 1 stitch in front and go back. So it's a forward back version of backstitch. And this is my preferred one because you don't end up with bobbly bits on the back, and I find it gives a neater appearance on the front. So again, we're going to go forward a stitch, and then we're going to jump forward even further in front and then bring our stitch back to meet the previous. And then we're going to go forward a stitch, and we just keep doing that. So I'll get all the back stitches laid down first, and then we'll come back and do the whipping over them. And that way you'll be able to see how the back stitch looks different to the whip stitch before we do the second half. And back. So yeah, stitching into fabric like this and outlining a design, great way to go if you don't kind of want to draw your own designs. Just find some nice fabrics that you can combine, and think about how you can combine different fabrics in your collection in creative ways. Like this one does have 3 different fabrics as the sort of base design, all integrated in together. And how you can use the elements in the fabric to kind of, yeah, cut around. And so with these I just actually cut them out and then used a bit of regular Yoo-hoo glue to stick them down, and that also just helps to stop the edges from fraying, but then gives you a nice secure base on which to be doing your stitching. And it doesn't gum up the needle. It's still actually my favourite adhesive. I've been using a bit of steamer seam because that's recommended by the collage quilter, but sometimes my needle does get a little bit gummy with that. Whereas the Yoo-hoo doesn't really create much of a different texture for me to stitch through, and no residue comes off on the needle. So I think I was telling you about Christmas, and Mum makes, yeah, her beautiful plum pudding, Christmas pudding, and that's because Australia, generally we have very hot Christmases. Some years we don't, and it'll be interesting. I haven't heard the long range forecast yet for what Christmas will be. As I say, I'm filming this video when it is a week and a half to Christmas. When you're watching it, it will be past Christmas because it will be when Jen has received her Stitchery Swap. But yeah, we generally have hot Christmases, so we don't always have the food that people still do have, the turkey, but many of us have a different sort of Christmas. And we've become a lot less formal with our Christmases. We now just do a sort of a grazing table to start, and then we do desserts, because we used to do the grazing table and then we get to main course and people were already feeling full, and then by desserts, one year they couldn't actually, no one could fit any desserts in, so we've decided to go with the best bits, all the lovely nibbly bits, as well as a big salad as well to go with that. But ham and cheese, I'm going to do some veggie fritters because we've got some vegetarian guests, and thinking of doing a little pinchos style, which is a Spanish style where you get little bite-sized sort of morsels, often on bread, with some nice dip or spread and some lovely toppingy bits. So I'm thinking some bruschetta as well. I've got beautiful basil growing, and hopefully I might even have some of my tomatoes from the garden ready to pick. The garden has gone absolutely bananas. It's loving the weather we're getting, the wet and the warmth. Some years the wet can make it a little bit too sort of, yeah, I mean it has been very humid, so I'm sure the zucchinis will get the sort of that white mildewiness on them, but at the moment the zucchinis are going nutso too. I'm actually afraid to go and look what the ones that the zucchinis I'd left on the bush, to see what they've done. What monstrous sizes they have grown to. Afraid to look. So yeah, thinking lots of lovely nibbly things, guacamole, avocado dip. We have a family favourite of a cream cheese and gherkin dip. So I'll make that. Probably make a hummus or a cannellini bean dip. Have lovely cheeses and ham. Probably make some, yeah, falafels. Definitely going to make some vegetable fritters so that I can just have nice and crispy in the, can make them ahead and then just crisp them up in the air fryer. Lots of beautiful breads from our wonderful French bakery. They do incredible jalapeno little bagels. Beautiful focaccia. So when I'm stitching here, which is again a raw edge, I'm just going to stitch slightly in from, and then when we wrap it, it will sort of wrap out to the out to the edge. But we want to hold the fabric down with these stitches, so I'm just going to stitch slightly in rather than right on the edge. What else? We'll have olives, artichokes, carrot sticks. yummy biscuits and chippy things. Alex's dad particularly loves potatoes, so I might do some roast potatoes or roast sort of wedges. We used to traditionally always in the family do what we call Hasselback potatoes, where you slice them in half and then you lay down like a chopstick or a knife next to them and you slice part way down into them, so you get a sort of a ridged back on them. And then we used to bake them and then sprinkle them with parmesan towards the end, and they'd come out beautiful and crispy and cheesy. So I might even do some of those. Even though we're not having the full roast, I'm sure folks might still enjoy a Hasselback potato. But yeah, definitely a lot more relaxed, a lot more grazing. People just take what they want, and then some beautiful salad to go with that, and a nice dressing. I might make a mustard dressing. I might make a green goddess yogurt dressing as well for it. Green goddess just means lots of herbs from the garden in, so that it turns a lovely green colour. So I'll rethread because I'm almost out of thread, and we'll come back and we'll do our whipping over our backstitch. So yeah, I imagine you'll be watching this well past New Year's, so I hope your New Year's has started the way you want it to. And just, yeah, a huge amount of appreciation from me for all your support and encouragement, and just being a lovely bunch of people. Those of you who've been watching, those who've been with me for a very long time, those that might have just joined, those that might be just watching for the first time. Anyone who's left a comment or left a like or just done something that says, hey Christine, you're not alone. And we enjoy joining you in your craft room. I definitely enjoy having you there, and I look forward each morning when I wake up to open up the YouTube and just see what's going on in people's lives and hear from you through the comments. And yeah, I've got to know beautiful people through this medium. I never anticipated it would be as wonderful as it was. I actually was a little bit fearful of the unkindness of strangers on the internet, but what I've discovered is that the stitchy folks, they're not strangers and they're not unkind. They are beautiful souls, and I just hope it stays that way. Some people are very focused on sort of growing their channels and their viewership. I guess I'd much rather, if it's the difference between going out to a wider audience and finding people are less kind or keeping the kind and the lovely, I'll always stick with the kind and the lovely, and knowing the community that I am part of. So that's what my focus is, connection, and that's why every comment that I'm left, I always respond to, and I absolutely am reading it and responding, and I'm getting to know people, and that's what's special to me. So what I'm doing, I'm seeing I've just done that row without actually talking to you about what I'm doing. I'll show you up the top here. I'll just start at the top. I'm just going to bring my needle up next to one of the back stitches that I've laid down. And then what I'm going to do is come through, in this case from the right hand side. You can pick which side you want to come through from. Sorry, I've just caught on the side of my desk. And then you just keep coming through each of the back stitches from the same side. So you're just wrapping each of the back stitches, and what it gives you is a beautiful smooth line, but with that little twist in the thread. So have a look at the difference between where I've done that whipping of my back stitch and where I've just got the back stitch and it's sort of like more dashy. But here it just does a lovely job of wrapping it. So I just go down a row. When I get to the end, I like to take my thread back in, secure it down, and then I like to pop out next to the next bit that I'm going to wrap, because otherwise you can find at the tops or anywhere where you're going around the corner, you might get one of your wrap threads sort of not going in the direction you want it to. But if you do this, it won't give you that problem. Again, just coming through each back stitch always from the same side. So pick the side that you want to come from, And it's always the side where you've popped up anyway, so that's kind of the side that you're going to come through, but just remember what side that is, and then just do that all the way up. So you're not going through the fabric, you're just coming underneath the thread. And that's why having stitches that are a bit bigger. If you've got a particularly long bit, like that was a long stitch, I'm actually just going to do 2 wraps around it. You can really just pick it however you want. On the side of my desk again, I'll just pull my thread down a bit so it's not quite so long, and then one more stitch at the top, and then again I'm going to go into the back, and then I'll just pop up next to my next stitch, and then again I'm going to just keep coming through from this side. Oops, I almost went under my fabric, but no, don't want to do that. I just do that one again. Oops, got a little notch. Go. Here I'll just continue down this bit of the petal. Sometimes you might skewer your thread like I did there, and so I just pulled my needle out and just made sure I'm passing just underneath between the thread and the fabric. So yeah, if you've done really small little back stitches, it might be harder to get it under. But yeah, this is one of my favourite ways to get a beautiful, beautiful decorative raised stitch that's makes your stitching look really, really neat. So take it back there, and then I've actually got to just finish this little section up here, so I'll just travel my thread, and in fact there's a longer stitch here, so I'll just stitch that one down while I travel my thread back up. Get rid of that little knot that formed. Take that little tail off. And then I'll pop up on this side of this one. Just going to finish off doing the whipping or the wrapping. Again, I think I might have just skewered my fabric. I just want to get under this stitch. Okay. Oops, and we've got a knot again. I think it's the problem sometimes when you're twisting around, it just makes your thread a bit twisty. And again, at the end of this petal, I'm just going to put a stitch in, and then I'll pop up to finish off down here. Okay, and then we'll finish off on the back. And so as you can see, my version of back stitching, you don't get all those loopy bits, you just get a double stitch at every second point. So it almost looks like a running stitch on the back, but it's actually a double running on the back. And for me, it's just a neater finish on front and on back. So there we go, that is our sweet little Stitchery Swap to send to the lovely Jen. So I hope, Jen, when you're watching this, that you like it. I am a huge admirer of your stitchery, so it's a real honour to be sending you a piece of my stitchery. I don't think I really need to do anything else. I've already done my stitching around here, and it's all stitched down at the back. Probably put a few, I will just put a few stitches, I think, across there just to hold that one down. But otherwise, that is the Stitchery Swap for Jen. So I hope you are having a lovely day. Hope your year is starting off really well. Hope you may be getting some rest and relaxation, and hopefully this gives you some ideas for how to add texture, how to create a magical midnight garden scene, how to use your fabrics and combine your fabrics, how to use beads, and how to use beaded pieces and other embellishments. Oh, this little button is from my vintage Mother of Pearl button collection as well. Take care everyone, and I will see you back here soon. Bye.